Like, share, like, share, like, share. So we have seen the off and puff of Christopher Tufton not wanting to tell the Jamaican people about his pilfering of the Jamaican public money. Yes, Christopher Tufton is what we would call Christopher come rob us. Yeah, man. Christopher Tufton have he able to bring a little repair at the Cornwall Regional Hospital we value 1 billion, little over 1.5 billion over the past 8 years, and now it have reached 21 point billion and still skyrocketing. And Christopher Tufton stop there, so him a tell the Jamaican public say him want more money for rob, but the thing where me want for ask, is there somebody to stop Christopher Tufton from pilfering the Jamaican people money? This man here, Christopher come rob us, need someone to stop him, and it don't seem like Andrew Holness can do it, but we the Jamaican people have to go hit the road. Cause it seems like say even the opposition now say Christopher Tufton is a new day, a new era. Christopher come rob us. So I want you to listen to Christopher come rob us. I explain how him a do good in the health sector. Listen.
He indicated that while the government accepts that many Jamaicans continue to face challenges at public health facilities, he says significant investments have been made in health. He indicated that the country's health budget has increased by 143% under his leadership, moving from $60 billion a year in 2016 to more than $140 billion in 2024. However, Dr. Tufton acknowledged that too many Jamaicans continue to encounter difficulties accessing health care. He also chided the opposition for spreading what he calls mischief regarding the ongoing rehabilitation of the Cornwall Regional Hospital. Dr. Tufton now joins us. Good morning, Dr. Tufton.
Hi, good morning to your listeners.
Thank you as always. You have indicated that there have been significant investments made in health, and the opposition leader, he blasted you for the mishandling of the sector. What are some of those areas we have seen, those improvements that you have spoken about yesterday?
Well, the budget, as indicated, has been increased substantially, and that those resources have been spent on a number of things. We have increased the number of doctors, nearly 1,000, and that recruitment is ongoing. Nurses, community health aides, from about 1,000 when I took office in 2016 to over 2,200 now. So more personnel. We have substantially improved a number of infrastructure. Health centers, about 9 billion expenditure over that period on health centers, building new ones, upgrading others. Some now have air conditioning facilities in waiting areas like Cambridge Health Centre in South St. James, most recent I opened. Of course, the larger projects, the hospitals, we have broken ground for Spanish Town, building a 6-story building. That construction has started. Rerouting the ring road at UHWI for a new 6-story building. We have introduced health information systems, which is digitizing patient records for quicker delivery of service. So Maypen right now, Maypen Hospital is fully digitized. We have connected a number of health centers, over 100, in terms of digital connectivity. And we have been working to improve the diagnostics and the availability of diagnostics to try and ensure a more consistent service to patients who need to be analyzed and assessed before a conclusion is drawn. Now, I made the point that all of this is a necessary requirement for the transformation of the sector, but it doesn't guarantee it. We have to then use those tools as internal stakeholders, doctors, nurses, administrators, but also as patients in terms of what their expectations should be when they come into a facility, and ensure that we optimize the response. I didn't mention NHF, but NHF has been a major expansion over that period of time. We have increased the number of categories benefiting from the NHF card from 16 to 22. So additional conditions being added. Yesterday I announced pap smear subsidy for females 21 and over who can get a pap smear each year. We had previously announced prostate screening and the subsidy to that. All of this combined, I think, has made a much more responsive environment to the population. But we still have some work to do, and that was the substantial point I was making in the Parliament.
I just received a press release from the opposition spokesperson on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, literally just came in my inbox. And one of the things he says is that he has labeled you, Dr. Tufton, as being out of touch with the realities facing healthcare workers and users of the public health facilities. That's what he says. And the average Jamaican, Dr. Tufton, looking on, they may question that about the investment. They go to the hospitals, equipment, they're not working, surgeries have to be postponed, they can't get a bed, it takes hours to get assistance. How do you convince Jamaicans that the investment is actually happening? Because before them, the feeling is that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, it depends on who you speak with. And I anticipate and expect the opposition to take that posture. But let's look at the numbers. We see almost 3 million visits to our hospitals and health centers each year. We have over 200,000 thereabouts admissions each year, inpatients, persons who spend 5 days or less. The vast majority of those persons are served. The vast majority of those persons get a prescription and get medication. Over 1 million prescriptions written. 3 million prescriptions written per year, having moved up from under 1 million since 2016. So, you know, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not that some are not to benefit and others need to benefit more. And I did not give an impression that the system was perfect, because it's not. And we have to keep working on it. And there needs to be a mindset change to use those tools to deliver better service. But the truth is, it takes one bad experience to create an impression. And that normally is what would happen. When people have good service, they don't say anything. When they have bad service, then it becomes a headline. So I am not trying to create a false impression, because that would not suit us as an administration trying to improve the service. We understand that some persons are not satisfied, but we inherited a system that was suffering from huge underinvestment. Cornwall Regional collapsed because it was not being maintained. And the collapse of Cornwall Regional, we have to now take on and repair and fix in a way that is more sustainable. Those are issues that we have to confront, and what I think the government and the people of Jamaica hopefully will recognize, if not now, in time, is that we have been bold enough to invest in healthcare by spending a lot more and tackle the critical deficiencies that have existed over many, many years. And I think that will pay off in the medium to long run for the people.
We're up on a break, Dr. Tufton. Let's take the break and come back. system, time attendance, power supplies, and Power 106 FM. My name is Sanjay Lewis. We're speaking with the country's Health and Wellness Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton. And Dr. Tufton, I want to read another section of that press release that just came out from the opposition spokesperson on health, Dr. Dawes. And what he says, Dr. Tufton, is that in addition to the health indicators showing a decline in the overall health of Jamaicans, the experience at public hospitals and health centers is depressing, he says, and frustrating. Far too many patients are undersupplied and the employees are overworked. And he also says, he took a jab at you, Dr. Tufton. You can't fault a marketer, he says, for marketing. But when patients and healthcare workers are forced to jump over raw sewage to attend a ribbon cutting ceremony for the refurbishing of a hospital bathroom, it's evident that the issue lies not in funding, but in the government's misplaced priorities. That's what Dr. Dawes says, Dr. Tufton. The priorities are misplaced.
Yeah, well, I'm not in the habit of getting personal on these issues, so he has chosen that approach. I respect him for his profession, and if he wants not to do the same with mine, then that's his prerogative. The issues, though, are real in many ways, but one cannot deny that the progress that we have made over those 8 years are not real either. The issues around, the specifics around whether there is sewage on the street or running somewhere, that happens from time to time, and that is a whole different ballgame in terms of addressing an infrastructure need that some places are being addressed and other places need to be addressed, and that's another conversation. But we have refurbished, it is right, a number of bathroom facilities, center conveniences. We have built out a number of health centers, as I said, like Cambridge, the last one I went to, which is a far different place, including new sewage system that was putting out that facility. And the truth is, more people are getting medication than ever before. So, those are facts. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but we're not entitled to our own facts. And what I tried to do in the Parliament on last evening is to highlight the areas in which government's expenditure has improved what is on offer. Are we there? I actually said we are not. I said we are on the road to transformation. The reason why we offered a $2.5 billion scholarship fund and development fund is because we anticipate that when we build out these hospitals, when we get these diagnostic equipment that we have ordered or have purchased, when we would have needed to respond more to people through health information systems, we're going to need the people to manage and to combine those variables. And there is a major concern that I have, that the global shortage of healthcare workers and the mass recruitment and migration makes retention a big issue. There are places in the US where wards have to be closed because they don't have nurses. In the UK, and so Jamaica is a prime target for recruitment. So this fund is intended to attempt to encourage retention through training and retraining. So we are addressing the issues that have been mentioned. The build-out means better working environment for healthcare workers. I mean, how can one not see that if you build a new hospital in Spanish Town or St. Anne's Bay or Cornwall or Western Child, it means a brand new environment for staff to feel more satisfied in that workspace, including the $9 billion that we have spent on health centers. So, one can argue in extremes because there's always an outlier. But when all things are considered, the evidence is very clear that a lot has been done and the government continues to do a lot.
I want to put a question that a listener just sent to me, responding to something that you said. And the person says, it's not a posture by the opposition. It's the reality of people who go to these health facilities. You see them posting on social media about the challenges. All you hear is investment in this and investment in that and more money. But what about the reality on the ground faced by patients daily? And again, several persons have said.
Again, it is very easy, and it normally is the inclination for a bad experience to be highlighted. And social media is like the Wild West now, as you know. the good, the bad, and the ugly, including the falls and the truth. So you have to sift through all of that. So we have to exist within that environment as modern-day politicians. So we appreciate that. We have to put our own narrative out there. And, you know, I could really be a marketer and put out on social media many good stories every day of persons' experiences. Maybe we haven't invested enough in that, and maybe we need to do more of that. But again, I say, when all things are considered, more Jamaicans get the system. The system works for more Jamaicans than for those it does not work for. More medication, easier outlets through the drug serve windows, more services to persons who have been affected. Prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, which were not on the NHF card, are now there. People can screen more. Last year we did 122,000 screenings of Jamaicans in town centers. They never had that before. So those are all positive things. Mm-hmm. But again, you know, one can highlight the extremes. And yes, maybe there are too many bad experiences, and we need to continue to work to correct those. But it is a work in progress, and I think we're doing better than those who would like to take the job that we are doing now. And that's our opinion, that's our position, and we're defending it with the information.
And that's a direct job at the opposition.
I'm not jabbing at anybody, you know. I have a responsibility to carry the baton for health, and I'm doing that. I'm not getting personal on these issues. These are policy issues that I think we appreciate the cut and thrust of the debate, and that everybody will have an opinion. I tried to give facts yesterday because I think we have the facts to support our position, but not to create the impression that all is perfect. So I am not going to defend or seek to overlook the cases that are bad, because to do that would be to be insensitive. The thing with health, you know, it's a very emotional area. You know, every bad experience is an experience which we must regret, because it involves people's lives, it involves quality of life, it involves frustration, pain, suffering, and you can't put a price on that. So we have to show empathy when these situations occur, and I've always tried so to do, but it does not change the fact that a lot has been done, and more continues to be done. And we will continue to drive that process.
You spoke about investment at our health centers, primary healthcare facilities, which there's also a mindset, Dr. Tufton, that the health centers are not properly equipped to deal with the minor issues, and Jamaicans tend to go to the hospitals for everything. What are some of the areas that you're going to fix within our health centers, and how are you looking to change that mindset of Jamaicans that they don't have to go to our hospitals for everything? They can go to the primary health facilities, the health centers.
Well, we do between maybe 1.5 million, 1.5, 1.6 million visits to health centers, 325 across the country each year. So people are going to health centers, but I do agree with you that too many are bypassing health centers, partly because some of the services that they require are not offered there, partly because they feel they can get a one-stop shop type of treatment in a hospital. You know, they can see the doctor, they can get a diagnostic done and so on. Maybe the health center doesn't have that. Sometimes out of ignorance, they don't know what the health centers offer. So one of the things we unveiled yesterday was a new primary healthcare model, which will see a reclassification of health centers. We'll see 370 additional doctors being engaged in the primary healthcare system in health centers. We'll see more services being offered, and we'll see greater outreach. In addition, we launched a program called Operation Refresh, which really is the enhancement of health centers to make them more credible in the communities. Credibility meaning they must look the part. You know, you're going to pass a place if it looks run down and dilapidated and no signage, and, you know, waiting area is, you know, untidy or unkept or needs a paint job. So we have done a lot with health centers, but we want to look at where the gaps are and improve the look, the feel, the areas of weight, the center conveniences, maybe solar panels for air conditioning so people wait in a little more comfort, and then the substantial issues of additional doctors and services as part of the primary healthcare model. And that, I believe, as part of Operation Refresh, will hopefully encourage more Jamaicans to come into our health centers to get the services that are offered, and then slow the crowding out effect that will take place in the accident and emergency room. And then the community health aides would go into homes and also encourage that as part of this new thrust that we're pushing. So it is a continuum, and it's a hub and spoke. So we have to make everything connect in order to get the best results.
I want to touch on Cornwall Regional, Dr. Tufton. The opposition has criticized your management of the project. And one listener asked me, for months he has been asking, the next time I have you on to put this question to you, would it have been better, looking back, to have demolished that building and build from scratch?
Listen, hindsight is always 20/20 vision. I would like to paint a scenario to that listener or others who are skeptical. You are given a job to do that says this is the problem and this therefore is the solution. When you go in, you start to find that multiple other issues are the case.
Liar.
And you have a hospital that has 450 patients and other services and has collapsed literally.
Liar.
You have to move with several considerations. You have to deal with what do you do with the 450 patients? You can't put them out on the street. So you literally had to engage expenditures to accommodate them outside of that building, which is why we had to build so much infrastructure around Cornwall, which cost a lot of the money that is being quoted as if it's the main building. Then you had to rescope the job to strip down that building, having assessed, and the experts did this, not me, that the concrete structure was still very sound, but we needed to essentially strip it down and replace a lot of what is there, which is what we did. Hence the time adjustments while we were building out to provide and continue to provide the services. Now, in dollar terms, there was an expert, one of the overseas consultants on the job, that quoted at a town hall meeting in Montego Bay that the cost to complete a Cornwall versus to build a new hospital, if they benchmark against U.S. costs, and even with a discounted Jamaican cost, it would be 2 to 3 times what we are now spending on Cornwall. And that's his words, not mine. So the answer is that it would be more expensive. Would it be more predictable? I think so, because you'd have to lick down a building and cart away 10 stories of concrete and so on. It would take a lot of time, and perhaps as much time as is now the case. But once you've done that, clearly it would mean construction in a more predictable way. The difference is that while we're repairing one thing, we're finding something else, so we had to rescope, which added to the time until we had to just strip down everything. Having said all of that, I think we're in a good place because the timelines are more predictable. We are now adding the internals to the building, and we will have a phased reopening. And the best news is that Cornwall will be a new hospital. All the 5 operating theaters will be new. All the diagnostic equipment will be new. The ward space would be new. And so what we're actually doing is building out a new hospital.
Dr. Tufton, I'm asking if you could give me 5 more minutes. I have 2 more questions I want to put to you, but I'm up on the break.
All right.
Great, thank you so much. Let's take them. So, Dr. Tufton, you have indicated now, based on where you're at with the Cornwall Regional project, that it's in the final stages. When will we see the new hospital being reopened?
As I said before, that there is going to be a phased approach to the reopening. So they'll open particular floors for particular services. And we are hoping that it will start this year and go into next. So I think the entire thing, you're looking maybe at a year and a half, but we will see the re-engagement of the building before that, with particular areas being open. Remember also that you have Western Child and Adolescent, which is on the same compound, and there's a bridge that's going to connect both. So Western Child is on that same trajectory. There'll be some shared services, dietary being the key one, so the meals will be prepared on the main Cornwall building and for both buildings. So the coordination between the two is also taking place. And, I should say too that a lot of people, maybe we need to do a better job at explaining the gigantic task of managing two major construction sites while running a hospital on the same compound. It's not easy. I mean, I salute the staff there. You're talking about noise pollution, dust pollution, movement of people, movement of workers, movement of material. It slows down the process because the logistics of it has to be managed. And for all those reasons, it takes time. And if you want to do it well without injuring anyone or inconveniencing people unnecessarily, it means you have to stop and start at times. Also remember, COVID. We had 2.5 years. If COVID was not here, or we didn't experience COVID, Cornwall would be opened already. But during the COVID era, nothing happened because the preoccupation was clearly on protecting people from COVID. And even, many construction sites were shut down. So there's a context to where we are and why we are where we are. But again, I think maybe we have to do a better job at explaining it to the Jamaican people, which I have to take some burden for that.
The bed space at many of our hospitals is also a challenge. And I'll even go to my parish, Westmoreland, where I'm originally from. One listener says, the wait time at Sav Hospital is really bad. Yeah, I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know. But the listener, one person spoke about Sav Hospital, another person spoke about St. Anne's Bay. Those two hospitals, significant wait times. Are you aware of those issues regarding the bed space and the wait time, especially at those two hospitals, and I'm sure at others?
Well, wait for hospital beds is periodic, meaning depending on the season, and the season dictates the sort of sickness profile. So during the flu season, you have increased numbers and so on. During the Christmas season, because of trauma related to accidents, people overindulge and so on. So there's a cycle. And yes, that cycle does create a burden at times on certain hospitals, not all, but some. We need another 20 to 30% capacity, which is exactly what we're doing with the build-out that is taking place. We have about 4,500, maybe 5,000 if you pack beds in spaces that probably should not be in terms of bed space. What we're doing now will lead to about just over 6,000 beds comfortably. And that will address the 300 to 500 patients on any given, depending on the peak season of wait for beds, that may be waiting on a bed, and they would wait days in some instances, depending on the severity of their challenges. The two institutions that you mentioned, sub-hospital, I probably shouldn't say this, but I do accept that in our 24 hospitals across the country, sub is one that needs the most work. And I've brought that to the attention of the team, and I have been discussing a development plan for Sub Hospital. The truth is the population has expanded significantly without a commensurate expansion in the hospital itself. The trauma cases, particularly related to bike accidents, they're like the bike accident capital of Jamaica. Bike taxis with 4 and 5 people on it, no helmets, and I could go on, does make things very difficult at that facility. So we are now designing a new ward and the A&E area for expansion. and more will be said about that in the not too distant future. St. Anne's Bay has a development plan under the health strengthening system, and the designs are now actually being done. We will go to market later this year for an expanded St. Anne's Bay Hospital, just as we're doing with Spanish Town. Just that Spanish Town is ahead of the curve. They are now actually building out. So this is the point I'm making, that we are not insensitive to the challenges, and we are doing something long until we get to a point where we can, relieve most of the stress. There will always be stress in a public health system, but at least create the capacity that is necessary to manage, on average, the concerns that people have.
And our ambulance services, Dr. Tufton, another listener said, it's painful to watch when you have an accident and persons have to be placed in the back of a police van because we don't have a proper ambulance service in place. What's happening with that?
Well, we have added a number of emergency vehicles to our fleet in all the regions, quite a bit actually since forming government. But the truth is that we have a high trauma society. We on a per capita basis, we hurt each other on the roads more than most other societies because of how we drive and because of intoxication and because of all the other issues that create this kind of trauma. So the emergency response mechanism has difficulties keeping up pace with the high levels of trauma. I think the problem has to be approached in two ways. Yes, we will need to continue to enhance the responsiveness of the emergency fleet, but I think we also have to slow down the demand for that kind of service. And it's a joint government approach that has to take place. And, the concerns raised on the side of responsiveness also have to be raised on the side of a societal approach to people observing the road code, people not, creating this kind of mayhem that we get almost every day. And there are hot spots or red spots around the area, that's the country that has that problem. By the way, the same applies to lifestyle diseases. If you look at how the profile of persons who come in our accident and emergency wards, people with strokes and heart attacks and trauma and domestic violence and so on, if we cut the demand for the service by adjusting how we behave by even 10%, we would have excess capacity. And it says that an approach to public health has to be a lot more than just the responsiveness to the consequences of our action within society. It also is about how we control the action. And that's the approach we have taken with health by promoting the behavioral changes like Jamaica Moves and Know Your Numbers and so on. And, hopefully over time it will mean a shift, a cultural shift. So yes, we need more, but we'll never have enough to keep a pace with an increasing level of trauma in the society due to how we behave. And that's the reality. And it's a frank conversation that I think we need to have.
And finally, Dr. Tufton, just looking on, you have been health minister for a number of years since the administration came into power. How do you overall rate your assessment or rate your performance then of controlling the problem that we had? We went through COVID, which is a difficult period. The opposition clearly have said that you focus more on marketing than actual work. But from your standpoint, looking on, Dr. Tufton, assess yourself and your performance over the last, 8 years?
Right, 8 plus years.
8 plus years.
It's not for me to assess my performance. With due respect, history will judge one way or the other what I did as part of a team. I can speak on behalf of a collective, which is the government, and on behalf of the health team within the ministry and what we have had to do. COVID was probably the greatest challenge to to mankind on a global scale, and certainly to Jamaica and Jamaicans and the Jamaican Authority. It created a seismic shift, not just in the time of COVID, but certainly the aftermath, where we're still contending with things like mental health issues and, the kind of after effects, if you will. And we have tried, and I say we because I can't claim credit for the achievements. It's a team. Our death per capita compared very well with most other countries throughout the world. We had a low vaccination rate, 30+%, but we never had the commensurate levels of deaths that some other jurisdictions had. Our primary healthcare team were heroic in their response. They were the saviors. They went on the ground. They went into communities. They educated people. The population responded for the most part in terms of the restrictions, which helped to control the virus. The hospital system responded quickly by building out additional space, COVID wards, getting ventilators to save lives under very difficult circumstances. The stress level of the team was high. We were spending 18-hour days, that nights, and really responding. And I don't think, to be honest with you, we in the aftermath of COVID, there has been sufficient appreciation for the efforts by the team. As I said, maybe history will be kinder, but I appreciate that was our job, and we had to do what we had to do at the moment, at that point. On the other issues of our development plan, the health sector development plan, I think we have stuck to it in a significant way. I think the build-out of hospitals and health centers represents the largest capital investment that health has seen since independence. And that's a fact. The dollars and cents are there, the figures, and the manifestations are working its way through now with the construction. I think the addition of doctors and nurses, the largest increase in the complement of workers, and that's a fact. That's not fiction. That's not an opinion. And of course, some of the other things like digitization, which we have not had before, which are taking place. So I do believe that we have brought a much closer realignment to reality of what is needed in the health system than any other. But it is a work in progress, and we have to control the demand side, because it is unsustainable for the NHS, for example, to provide drugs to suit the needs of persons because of premature illness, premature mortality. In fact, we're premiering a documentary this evening at 6 at the Courtly Auditorium, which is actually open to the public for those who may want to come, on dying young, we call it, because our life cycle is showing premature mortality contributing to our population decline, largely because of lifestyle. Salt, sugars, fats, ultra-processed foods, lack of exercise, lack of rest. And that conversation is not a clinical one strictly. It really is a behavioral one, which is why we use health promotion and direct engagement of people in their communities to try and change behavior. It is the only way forward. And I think we have brought the country's psyche closest to that realization. But it has to continue, because changing behavior and changing culture is a big task. And I think the government has to be credited for that, and the health team has to be credited for that.
We have to leave it there, Dr. Tufton. I appreciate your time this morning and an extended interview. Thank you for your time.